While there are lots of JavaScript libraries and frameworks, jQuery is one of the most famous and one of the most widely used. Here I just want to have a very brief look at jQuery to explain how you can install it and use it, and to give you a very simple example. Well, you can get it from the jQuery.com site and just click to go to the download page, and there are various download options and various versions of jQuery available. jQuery is a free, open source JavaScript framework, and it can help you to do all sorts of things like manipulate the elements of web pages, handle AJAX requests, and create animations. Now, you can either download it to your computer and use it in a local installation, and that's what I've done in my example here. And there it is. Or you can use it online. Now, if you've downloaded it locally, you can just use the src attribute of your script to refer to the file. You could upload that file to your own website if you wanted to use it, or optionally you could use one of the installed versions on another site, and the Google site here provides one version that you could reference, in which case you would have to include the full URL to the online library. But for now I'm doing local development, so I'm using my local copy. Now, when you want to refer to an element on a web page using jQuery, you can have a shorthand notation so that, for example, if you want to access a div with the ID div1, look, I've got some divs down here, div1, div2, div3, well, you can just write $, open parentheses, and then put the name of the div as a string inside the parentheses, and that's what I've done up here. So that's an alternative to the traditional way of referencing elements, and you remember this from previous examples. I would normally have had to write document dot get element by ID, open parentheses, and then the name inside parentheses div1. So having got a reference to that element, I can then apply jQuery functions to manipulate it. And in my sample page, jQuery sample.html, I have simply applied fade-in effects to 3 named div elements that have a background color. And so here I've declared this function to handle the click event for the button. See what happens when I load the web page. There's my web page with the button on it. Click the fade-in button, runs my code, and the 3 divs with the background colors gradually fade in. And here's another sample page, jQuery sample 2. And in this page, you'll see I've got 2 buttons down below, just normal input button types. But this time I've given them class names, fade in, btn, and fade out, btn. Now this is because in my previous jQuery sample, this function just identified an input and was run when the input, the button, was clicked. This time I want to distinguish between my 2 buttons, and the class names help me do that by referring to them, for example, as input.fadein btn, and that runs this code up here, and input.fadeout btn runs this separate function down here. And notice, by the way, that I've enclosed these functions inside this block here that begins with document.ready. That ensures that the web page document's fully loaded and ready to be used before any of the JavaScript executes. Let's see how this works. Load up jQuery sample 2. Here are my 2 buttons. Fade in. The coloured squares fade in gradually. Each one has a different fade-in period, which is altered according to the number put in parentheses. And the other button calls the fade-out code. And as you'd expect, it just fades them out again, and there are different fade-out delays. If you download the source of jQuery and load it into an editor, you are going to see something like this. Now, this doesn't make much sense. It's very hard to understand exactly what's going on. The names used in the source code are hard to understand. They're often just single characters. and it's not even formatted, so you can't easily browse through and find out what all the functions are, which function is divided from another, and so on. Why is that? Well, if you look back at the jQuery download site, you'll see that each version of jQuery comes with a compressed production version and an uncompressed development version. The production version is smaller, and it's the one that you would normally use when you upload jQuery to your own website, but the development version is the one that's easier to understand. The production version is compressed to make sure that the code takes up just a small amount of space, so the file is smaller and the code executes more quickly. You can in fact compress your own JavaScript if you wish to, using a number of tools, and you can find these on Google. Just search for compressed JavaScript and you'll find a variety of different options. But if you want to understand how jQuery or other compressed JavaScript libraries work, download the uncompressed version. And here is the uncompressed version of jQuery. This is the same code, it has the same effect as the compressed version, but as you can see, it's much easier to read and much easier to understand. Here I've covered only the very, very basic elements of using jQuery. Whole books have been written about jQuery, so I can't hope to touch more than the very elementary levels here. But there are plenty of learning resources online, and this one is a good place to start, learn.jquery.com, and you find all sorts of useful information and example code to help you get started with jQuery.